Hi, welcome. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. And today we are interviewing a member of the West Bloomfield School District Board named Art Holdsworth. How are you doing today?
Max, how about you?
I'm doing good. What is your schedule like?
Well, actually, it's very busy, busier than I thought it might be. I've been officially on the board for less than a month. I'm doing background readings every day. We've had two public meetings. Um, there's all kinds of, communications in terms of keeping up to speed on what's going on, behind the scenes. I've had meetings with the superintendent and all the assistant superintendents. I've had a few meetings with various board members as well. So very hectic, but also very interesting. And I'm really looking forward to being on the board for the next 6 years.
Do you ever have anxiety while or before you are making a decision?
Oh yeah, being a new board member, not knowing what you don't know creates a fair amount of anxiety, right? I mean, you're learning so much. It's like trying to drink uh, from a fire hose. You know what I mean? There's so much coming at you at once, and there's so much. Every time you learn one thing, you realize there's three things you don't know yet. But again, that's a good thing. I'd much rather be busy and challenged than not be busy or and bored, if you know what I mean.
Yes. What is the easiest thing to make a decision on?
Well, these very easiest thing, there are certain administrative procedures that have to be taken care of, various consent agenda items that have to be passed. Those are real easy. The more challenging things would be financial matters, because what you have to do is try and project into the future what the state of our economy is going to be like, what the state of our district revenues are going to look like, whether there's going to be any major increases in our expenses for one reason or another. And without a crystal ball, you're making educated guesses. Luckily, you're making those guesses, though, based on historical information and research into what is likely coming down the pike from the state, what the trend has been, and enrollment numbers, and so on. But those are not easy decisions to make, and those probably are the ones that tend to create the most anxiety for me at this point.
What role are you currently taking on the board?
Well, we just had our committee assignments, so I'll be working with the Government Relations Committee and the Oakland County Youth Assistance Division of the Circuit Court. So those will be my two committee assignments in addition to, being a trustee on the board.
What is your favorite thing to make a decision on?
Well, these are good questions, Max.
Thank
I
you.
guess I would say, I guess I would say personnel matters, because those are the things that directly affect people and their livelihood. And sometimes, when you're lucky, it has to do with doing things that are in response to the great things that they've done within the district. They might have to do with, as we move forward, uh, with the financial projections. Maybe the day will come when we're able to give raises to all the staff members. Um, so those are the things I'd say I enjoy the most, because they have the potential for benefiting the most people. And of course, able you're, the better you're able to treat your employees, the better employees that you're going to have, the longer they're going to stick around. And that means they're going to be able to have the most experience and the most positive attitudes to help educate our students, which of course is the main goal of the board and the district.
What is your least favorite thing to make a decision on?
And I would have to say that that would be when a grievance or disciplinary action comes to the board. And the reason for that, of course, is that it just like my favorite things, which have to do with employees, these things are my least favorite because they negatively impact employees or students. But it's also the duty of the board, because the buck stops with the board, to make those types of tough decisions. Um, it's just unfortunate that they're not always going to be positive for the sake of the person. I mean, they'll be positive in the sense that it's the right decision to make, but not everyone's always going to be happy. So those are the least favorite things I'm involved with so far.
What is it like to be on the board?
Um, so far it's been really pretty cool. Uh, it's the thing I enjoy the most about it, even though it's a little nerve wracking. The thing I enjoy the most about it is that this is, civic duty and public service at its most basic. A school district and a city uh, elected official, and the board trustees and city elected officials are the are the government duty positions that are closest to the people, and as such, they're most noticeable and arguably the most impactful to the people. And so that's what I find the most enjoyable about being on the board and why I decided to run in the first place.
I know you've only been there for a little time, but as of right now, who is your favorite person to work with on the board?
On the board, well, does that? Well, I'd have to say Dr. Bazzi. She is incredibly talented, and even though she's been with the board less than a year, she seems to know so much about how everything operates. Seems to really be on top of things. And though I wasn't on the board at the time, the board made a great decision in hiring her, and she's going to do a lot of really good things for the district in a very positive way.
What is the board currently working on?
Well, let's see. There are three union contracts that are going to be up for negotiation this year. So we started working with administration to prepare for those. There is a bond issue language that just got approved at the last board meeting. So there's going to be a bond election coming up in May. So that'll take a lot of our time and effort. That's really a great opportunity for the district, and it's not going to increase the millage rate at all. And while the budget, of course, is still a long way away, we're constantly looking at the financial trends, especially now that things have changed in Lansing. We're we're very hopeful that new legislation is going to be coming down very soon, perhaps in the next few weeks or a couple of months. That's going to positively impact our district. And so that'll also be changing our financial projections. So that's another thing we're keeping a very close watch on. There's plenty of other things, of course. There's so many things in the yearly cycle that the board is involved in that there's always a lot of things going on. So I hope, Max, that maybe in another few months we'll be able to do this again and we can talk more about what's going on then.
Yes. What are what do you have in plans to make West Bloomfield School District better?
The So one of the things that I learned in the last several months as I've been running for the board, talking to a lot of people, doing my research here since the election 3 months ago, is how well the district has been run for years and years. So moving forward, it's really a matter of tweaking it around the edges, you know what I mean, and incrementally making improvements. So I was the facilities management director for Oakland County for 12 years. And one of the things I was in charge of there, besides all the buildings and grounds, was building security. And so for me, that is one of the important reasons I wanted to run for the board is to try and bring that experience that I have into the district. I plan on working very closely with our administration. I plan to be very involved in deciding how the new bond issue money is going to be spent with the goal of not only improving the buildings and grounds and doing things that are going to benefit the students' education, but also making those buildings and grounds as safe as possible. Um, Safety of buildings is only part of the equation, though. The other part is making sure that we are being proactive in terms of providing for all the needs that our students have, keeping them on an even keel and focusing them on their education in a very positive way. Which part of that means better mental health um, resources being brought into the district and social emotional learning, which is already well underway, of course, but in continuing to enhance those things as we move on down the road.
We have a great social emotional learning and great staff members and great people that hopefully everyone has their relationship like I do with someone in the building so that doesn't matter who, but they can get the help needed if needed. And I think the district has done a good job of giving the resources to the staff to help with that.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. Well said, Max. Thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome. What is your career history?
Well, I have an engineering degree from Oakland University, an MBA from Michigan State. I was a management consultant to local government for 15 years with Plant and Moran, and I worked for Oakland County for 18 years, 6 years as the Deputy Director of Management and Budget, and 12 years as Director of Facilities Management. I then retired about a year ago and decided to run for the school board.
What sparked an interest to run for the school board?
Well, having been involved in local government and the county for pretty much my entire career, I had always entertained the idea of running for public office. So when I retired, and since I have a daughter in the school district still, it made a lot of sense to run for the school board. As I mentioned before, it's really the most um, critical in a lot of ways type of public service. I obviously want to make sure that my daughter gets a great education and that she's safe in the schools. And of course, I want that for all of our students. And that really led me to the Board of Education. And the rest, as they say, is history up to this point.
What was it like to go through the voting process of getting the chance to be on the ballot for possibly being the board member?
Well, it was stressful and a lot of work. Um, I started back in the spring, and this is the first public office that I've run for. So, trying to learn how it all worked and trying to figure out which ways were the most effective in terms of getting my name and information out to people meant that I kind of took a broader approach than perhaps I needed to. But I was out there, going door to door, and I was doing mailings, and I was doing interviews, and it was just very, very time intensive. Um, I met a lot of great people and got a lot of good feedback, and Um, it was like a full-time job plus again, um, but no regrets. I'm glad I did it, and with the support of a lot of really good people who had the best interests of the school district at heart, I was able to win the election along with Ashley Davis, who is also a great new candidate on the board, or a great new member on the board.
I have an interview with her in a few weeks, but what did it feel like when you heard that you won as board member?
It was, um, I know this may sound a little odd, but it was actually a great relief because I was so stressed out by that point because I had been working so hard. There were 10 candidates running for just two open positions. That was the most candidates per open seat of any school district in Oakland County, and the most that this district's ever had run in a single election. So it was it was next to impossible to try and figure out how the votes might break. So I had absolutely no idea, other than knowing that I put in a heck of a lot of time and effort, how the election was going to end up that night. So when the county elections office uh, counted the last of the votes and the tally was in, and I saw that Ashley and I were the two winners, I was extremely relieved. And I started emailing all my friends and family and letting them know. That was about, that was close to midnight, I think, that night. So it was both exciting and nerve wracking. And um, I'm just happy that I'm on the board now.
What are you currently working on?
Well, we talked about earlier about the the changes that are coming up from Lansing and the impact on the budget. We just got our committee assignments, so I'm starting to get up to speed on what those are. I'm constantly, doing research on trends within public education and building safety and so on. I'm also in the process of taking various classes through the Michigan School Board Association, which does a great job of helping new board members get up to speed. And part of that getting up to speed is going to be involving some education on contract negotiations, since again, we have those three contracts coming up in the spring. And then also we'll be getting into the promoting the bond issue that's going to be coming up for vote in May.
What is your education?
Well, I graduated from Rochester High School and then got my engineering degree from Oakland University, and then worked for GE for 2 years, but then got my MBA from Michigan State, and then went to Plant Moran as a business consultant for 15 years. And then I was asked to join Oakland County by the county executive, and I worked there at the county for 18 years before I retired.
Thank you for joining, and I would also like to thank Miss Lisa Graff for composing the email.
You're welcome, Max. It's my pleasure.
Have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too. And thanks again for all the great work you're doing.
You're welcome. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Me too, Max. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
You too.
I will.